and welcome to The Professional Artist. This is episode 9, and I am Echo Chernik. We are broadcasting live in the United Public Radio Network 107.7 in New Orleans, simulcast on YouTube and Facebook. Please like, follow, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. This week, I am so excited to have one of my good friends, Nigel Sade, on with me, and Nigel has been a friend of mine since the very beginning of my career doing shows. I think, Nigel, when did I meet you? At Origins, I think?
Yeah, I think it was like 2009 or something crazy like that. Yeah. Huh?
What? Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, 2009. Yeah, 2009. Yeah, Origins. So, yeah, a zillion years ago.
A zillion years ago. So, anyway, so yeah, so you are you do so many shows. How many shows a year do you do now?
Well, the studio does about 30 shows, I'd say. I personally do about like 15, maybe 10 or 15. So
you're crazy. You're all over the world. You travel. I mean, we have a lot of listeners, I know, in Europe and all over the world. So we have, I think, quite a few listeners overseas, and so I think you do a lot of shows in Europe, and you live in Italy.
Yeah, I live in Lucca, Italy.
I'm gonna get out there and see you in Lucca. I need to do that show.
Yeah, if you haven't, if anybody in Europe is around, go see Lucca Comics and Games. It is like Halloween weekend, or All Hallows Eve weekend, since that's much more popular in Europe than Halloween is. But no, it's a 5-day show that takes over the entirety of Lucca, which is a city. It's about 20 minutes from Pisa. So.
And I'm going to get out there and see you one of these years. I'm going to get out there and sleep on your floor and go and exhibit at that show. I'm serious. I keep saying I'm going to do that. I want to do that.
My ancient floor. It's, as an American going over to Europe, it's humbling in a lot of ways. Like, my house is older than the United States, and that's just weird. I have a fresco.
Sofa is probably older than the United States.
I have a fresco on my ceiling. It's not a good fresco, okay? It's like the clip art of frescoes, okay? But still, I have one, and it's older than the United States. You know what I mean? So,
what does your fresco look like?
It's honest. It really is like, it's kind of like, I think it's a stencil in a lot of ways. Like it's like one of those ones where they're like, we should put a fresco in this house, and so they go up there, and like all of the corners are kind of the same, and then there's this bit in the middle, But they had to hand paint it, when it was all said and done. So like, it's all different, but it's very similar, It's just a ring that goes around the outside of around my lamp, which incidentally I need to get fixed. As a note, okay, the actual lamp itself is electrocuting me whenever I touch the thing. So there's that. I discovered that when I was changing the light bulbs the other day.
Maybe it makes you a better artist. I don't know.
I don't know. I've been electrocuted many, many times throughout my life. So yeah, it's very possible that like art and electricity.
Part of the artistic life. You should just be electrocuted by your lamp, surrounded by the really old.
I got electrocuted by a car once. Yeah, like I was. Okay, so the solenoid on a car and the battery should never touch. Okay, and if they do, it sends a very large amount of electricity between the two arcing points, and that knocked me way back.
Right. I got some Christmas lights once that somebody donated, and I found out why they were donated. It's because apparently someone removed them from a tree by cutting them off the tree. So that's not how you remove Christmas lights. You don't cut them off the tree. Yeah. I found the exit. There was like a black mark on my finger because that was the electricity like exited my finger. I was like, no, don't donate them after you cut them off of the tree. So yeah. We're deviating from the artistic things.
Yeah, it is also true. It is also true.
So your art, I love your art, by the way. Your art is awesome.
Thank you.
It's
Thank you very much.
Very cool. So talk about your art. Describe, since most people are on the radio listening. You must describe.
Yeah. So well, my influences, my strongest influences are Dali, it's the God spot, you know, stuff like that. And, Degas, Bosch, and I would say Gustav Klimt are like the big influences that I've had throughout my life. My work is my paintings are very much a symbolic abstract sort of thing, like a symbolism. It's like surrealism but without dreams. Like everybody thinks that surrealism is just a style. It's not. It's also attached to how you get to the style itself. Dali used to hold spoons in his hand, and he would sit in a chair and he'd fall asleep, and he'd drop the spoons because that moment when you would wake up from a dream, that and he would quickly sketch down what it was that he saw, and that's he believed that there was a connection between sort of a like a gestalt of the human experience and dreams and stuff like that. And so surrealism very much follows that concept as a thing. If you don't have the dreams involved, then it's just philosophy and it's symbolism. So you're doing sort of a symbolic representation of an emotional sort of concept.
There's a Pokemon that carries spoons. Now I'm wondering if that one's based off of Dali.
It very well could. Sorry.
So is your phone, apparently.
Yeah, that was R2. It told me a thing that I needed to know, and it is.
For those of you wondering and frantically searching the web, Nigel's website is Studio de Sade, STUDIODESADE.com.
Yes. Or you can even just use my name, nigelsade.com as well. It'll take you directly to and that's, well, never mind if you're listening.
And your phone is
Sade, the singer. So if you ever listen to the Smooth Operator song, yeah, that person, you know, put Nigel in front of it. So.
And your phone has reminded you to fix your lamp.
No. My phone has reminded me that my webpage person will in fact share this as soon as she's not driving. So
that's good. Please finish driving. Don't share it while driving. Please don't, because we don't want a thing saying your studio person is now in the hospital, you know, from sharing this while driving. We don't. No.
And to be absolutely fair, you know, it's recorded, so you know, be able to come back and watch and see how stupid we are, you know, later on as well.
So, and you do a lot of stuff for Star Wars too, of course.
I started doing a sort of like a modern day Art Deco sort of design element. Hey, it's Mo. That is my girlfriend's dog. So at any rate, basically Art Deco, again, as an art style, is about the visions of the future. So like the Bullet Train was like the train of the future, you know, and then the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building were the buildings of the future. I wanted to do a modern day Art Deco, and I feel like it's impossible today to see the future without seeing it through the lens of our science fiction. We're so engrossed in our science fiction that like it's impossible for us to think of the future without thinking of it in terms of something that we've watched, something that we've fallen in love with. Like, is the future going to be like Star Wars? Is it going to be like Star Trek? Is it going to be like Doctor Who? Is it going to be, you know, like Cowboy Bebop? You know, like what's it going to be like? And so I guess what I wanted to do was just do Art Deco with those designs to show what our future will be like, you know, in a lot of ways.
I hope it's. I'm trying to think what I'd want it to be like now.
Yeah, right. Like I don't want it to be like. I don't want it to be like Star Wars. I love Star Wars. You know what I mean? I honestly, none of them are really great role models.
No, I know. What do I want it to be like now?
Not even Star Trek. You know, I mean, Star Trek tries to be really positive, but you know, it's got to have some negative thrown in there in order for the positive to come through.
At least Doctor Who has a lot of options. You know.
Yeah, Doctor Who is
that can go lots
very,
of different directions.
I do love Doctor Who. I just think that the idea, as a pacifist myself, the idea that we only have two pacifists on TV. It was MacGyver and the Doctor, and that's it. Basically.
And there's
beyond
cat nuns.
Cat nuns. Oh, it does have cat nuns. Yeah, it does have cat nuns.
Which is based on reality, on history. Actually, there were meowing nuns in history. I learned on watching a historical thing. Apparently, there was a convent of nuns that just started meowing.
Yeah,
I learned that.
That I just discovered the other day too. There was something really, really. You know what? It's gonna come to me. I'll figure it out. But
we deviate hard again. Yes, we deviate.
Yeah. If I just blurt something out somewhere in this broadcast, that's because I remembered it, and here we are. ADHD is a hell of a drug. Okay, so at any rate,
we were talking about your art. Yes.
Yeah. So the Art Deco sort of stylization, it kind of came about through like one that mode that I wanted to go at, but also like if you see like my tattoo design work and stuff like that, that was sort of the beginning of this abstracted work that I was doing in the very beginning of my career. In the beginning, I just did like pen and ink sketches, and then also these, which were also pen and ink sketches, but I had a digital element that kind of added onto it. I take them and I bevel them out, and then I kind of rough the edges of it up so it looked like a stone, like a huge stone. In a lot of ways, it was very simple.
I love your design elements. I love your back tattoo. Your back tattoo is phenomenal.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah,
everybody should just run up to Nigel at the shows and be like, "Take your shirt off.
Take your shirt off.
Take it off, man."
Nobody really wants to do that. Although the back tattoo makes it a lot nicer. So,
it's really nice.
So no, it's a giant Luna moth. Is what it is. So
I have a Luna moth too.
I know.
Yeah, where did it go? It's somewhere. I lost it.
Yep. There, I see it.
Oh, there it is. There's my Luna moth.
Yeah. I love Luna moths because they look like manta rays. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, and so it's kind of got this like air and water sort of element to it. I don't know. I love the design of it. Like the tendrils that kind of come down, and it lends itself well to the symbolic abstract styling that I started with. But yeah, no. So actually, when I first started, Andy Hopp was one of the reasons for it. I met Andy at a convention, actually at Origin, same convention we met at, which incidentally was my very first show as well, in 2003, I believe.
Not the one I met you at. I met you
not the one. Yeah, not the one. Yeah, but it was 9. So like 6 years later, you and I met. But Andy, I met him at a show, and he was like, we mentioned that where I lived, and he said, "Oh, because I lived in Kent, Ohio at the time." He's like, "Oh, I live in Akron. We should hang out." And so we did, and I built my entire portfolio at Andy's house. I was actually in university. I was going to school for genetics, and I just, in between my undergrad and grad, I decided that I was going to actually show my artwork because of a professor. And here's the thing: like, go to school, all right? Like, seriously, like, I mean, arts. Everybody poo-poos art school and stuff like that, but like, don't. It is a way to show whether or not you can handle the rigors of being an artist, because being an artist it's not simple. It's I like to say, it's not all hookers and blow. Like, I mean, we're like, we have like, we have our parties and things like that, and those are fun, but like the majority of the time we're just sitting around working. Like, I work more at this job than most people will ever work at any other job, and I love it. That's what I do. It's part of who I am. It defines me as a human, and ostensibly, at least. I don't know if I'm actually human. I mean, I look like a human, right?
You're pulling it off. You're pulling it off. You're doing good. You still look like a human.
Oh, good.
It slips once in a while, but you're pretty good.
Yeah, right. I have really strong feelings, which there's that. But yeah, so I was in university, and I was taking kind of the nosebleed section of the art class, and the final project was we had to recreate a masterwork, and everybody got to pick one except for me. My professor came to me and said, "Here, you're going to draw this," and he gave me a picture of Bartolomeo Pazzaratti's two-headed figure, which, go ahead, try to look that one up. It is one of the more esoteric pieces. You can look up Bartolomeo Pazzaratti. He's a fantastic artist. Everybody should know him. Actually, and a bit of coincidence, or Alanis Morissette irony, if you want. Alanis Morissette. Alanis? Wow. Alanis Morissette's irony. Because the only thing that's ironic about that song is that she's trying to explain irony. So, because the ends invalidate the means. That's irony.
Yeah.
Everything that she's explaining is coincidence. So if we've somehow failed humanity and made them think that coincidence is irony, then Alanis Morissette's song is actually ironic. So
anyway, back to the art.
Anyways, back to the thing. All right. So anyway, the about Bartolomeo Pazzaratti's from Lucca. I found that out. The place where I ended up moving is where the artist that convinced me to show my artwork is originally from. Yeah, but basically I finished the piece. It was a pen.
What does this piece look like?
It was a pen and ink piece. Hold on a second. I can grab one. I have it just sitting right here. I think. Yes. Okay. So this is my version. That I've always kept it as part of. Oh no, over here. Yeah. Sorry, I have a.
All right, you have to describe it.
So this guy here. Back. So this guy in the front it's about the two faces of man. Okay, it's called the two-headed figure. All right, and so in the background you can see the kinder, gentler side of man as being overshadowed by the beast. All right, and so it's this idea of the issue that humanity faces on a daily basis. The idea that it's easier to be despicable and mean and so on and so forth than it is to be good. So it's also known to be one of the more early werewolf pieces.
There's like a man face and a beast face for those of us listening on radio.
The beast is kind of, it's got this sorry. My camera is really smart, or at least it thinks it is, and so it wants to follow me around. And then
so there's like a man face, and then there's a beast face, kind of like coming over his face.
Yeah. So you've got this kind, sort of gentle face of the nose and mouth of the one guy, and then over top of it is this sort of werewolfy, beast looking thing that's just spitting out of it, and it's got this crazed look in its eye, and so on and so forth. And so it's the piece itself is about how humanity's kinder side is often overshadowed by humanity's darker side, in the thing. And so at any rate, I did the piece, and all I really did was I replicated it, but I tightened up the hatching, it was a loose hatching and whatnot. And the response to it was so overwhelmingly positive that I was like, hey, maybe I don't suck, maybe I could actually show my artwork to somebody else. And so between my undergraduate and my graduate degree, I showed my artwork, and here I am 21 years later.
And now you're still worried because you were talking to me, because I was telling you that I had Todd Lockwood on the podcast earlier on the second episode, and you were telling me that how much you worshipped him, and that you
he's one of my favorite artists. When I started off, I actually wanted to be an illustrator for Dungeons and Dragons and stuff, because I when I was 6, I began playing Dungeons and Dragons with my cousins who are like my brothers. My aunt and my uncle and my cousins were there for me in ways that like, you know, they didn't have to be. And I spent so much time with them that, you know, to this day, they're closer to me than my actual brother is. So, but at any rate, so I was playing Dungeons and Dragons. So like I grew up like with this desire, like I'm gonna be an artist for Dungeons and Dragons. I'm gonna be an artist for, you know, or some other role playing game or something like that. And that's what I wanted. And I'm not an illustrator by any stretch of the imagination. So if you want what's in your head, I'm probably the worst person in the world. You know, I am great at doing what's in my head, you know, but like if you want what's in your head, I can recommend 100 artists that will do an amazing job for you. You know what I mean? But I'm not that guy. I'm just not that guy. I learned that a long time ago.
And it's important that you know that.
Yeah. And so I just focused on what it is that I wanted to draw. And luckily everybody kind of followed me along, and I did well. You know, my career grew and everything was great. But in the very beginning, I you know, things were building, but they weren't building like, I mean, I started in 2003, and like 2003 was only like a half year, and then like 2004, like, you know, I made it like almost twice what I made in 2003, which really wasn't that much. And then like I increased by like 50% in 2005, and then like another 50% in 2006. But it wasn't quite enough, you know what I mean? Because you have so much money that goes out, you know, that like the money that comes in has to kind of, you know, sound really, really impressive. It's not. So at any rate, but I thought about packing it in. You know, I thought I was like, you know, I probably should just get back to school, you know, before my credits go away, you know, and go ahead and start my graduate degree, get my degree in genetics, go become a geneticist, and so on and so forth. And I was in the Dragon Con art show, and Todd Lockwood was the guest of honor. And like I said, I always loved his dragons. His dragons are amazing, by the way. If anybody's not seen Todd Lockwood's dragons, he defined dragons, I feel like, for like that entire generation. I mean, he just the larger sort of like the jaw that's like bigger on the bottom than it is on the top. He added so much depth, I think, into that aesthetic that you know, he was just impressive. And he didn't just draw dragons; he drew all kinds of other stuff. Oh, man, he's got this one piece which has got all these angels that are kind of flowing together and whatnot. It kind of reminds you of bodies. I don't know if they're angels or not, but at any rate, it kind of reminds you of the piece that's in the background of the Devil's Advocate. Where that sculpture that's kind of moving in the background. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of like that, but it's also got this more fantastical fantasy element that's going on around it. It's a beautiful piece of artwork. But anyways, so I went to Todd and I said, hey Todd, it's really a pleasure to meet you. I'm Nigel Sade. And he looked at me and he goes, oh, I know who you are. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, I've been following your work. I think it's really cool. And like, it just blew my mind, because here's Todd Lockwood, one of these people that like I've idolized, you know, my entire career. And before my career, one of the people I wanted to be when I grew up, and he knew who I was, you know, like he'd been following my work, you know, like how does that even happen? And so I didn't quit, you know, because of Todd, I decided, you know what, I'm going to continue to be an artist. I might as well give it another year, you know. And then every time it turned around, I would just find some new excuse to continue on. Like anytime I felt low, because we do. Every artist feels low at some point in their year. Like there comes, like for me at least, there comes a month or two, like where like the shows that I'm doing aren't necessarily as good as I thought that they should be, you know, for one reason or another. And I think to myself, oh, maybe you're not as good as you thought you were, and you think, I just suck. And, depression takes hold, and you start to doubt whether or not you made the right choices in life. And then it's just a face. It's just, it's just economics, really, more than anything else. And, you're in a place that has less interest in your artwork, or, you're in a place that has, that's financially, not as good as another place,
or bad placement in the show. I mean,
bad placement in the show. Exactly. You're having a bad weekend. Your depression is outwardly visible, and you're the one that's causing the problem. Like, I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen, but like, we all go through it, I think, and just being able to overcome it is kind of, I think that defines people that make it, So.
But people also, they ask why, like, us older artists do stuff like talk on this podcast and stuff to like the younger artists, and this is a great example exactly why we do this. Why Todd like talked to you and said, "Oh, I love your art," because it changed the course of your whole career. Otherwise, you would have given up. I mean, this is why we talk to younger artists and support each other, specifically because just saying something nice can change. Just some words of encouragement can change someone's entire career.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even realize when you say something nice to somebody, it could literally change their whole career. You don't even realize you can say something. And the opposite's true too. You can say something negative and you could totally just crush somebody. So you got to be really careful what you say.
Yeah, and I feel like the sci-fi fantasy area that I grew up in, and I'm assuming that's where you like identify with as well, as like your sort of playground, in a lot of ways. Yeah. Those people are some of the kindest individuals that you'll ever meet. I mean, I always come back to like Jeff Easley or Larry Elmore or Donato Giancola, stuff like that. And so like Easley, for instance, like I own a Jeff Easley original painting. Okay. Because he was at a show called Con on the Cob, and he was the guest of honor. All right. And he came, but he had forgotten all of his oil paints and his brushes and stuff like that. And he was supposed to do this painting demo. Well, it was in my hometown. So I went home, I grabbed a board and some paintbrushes and some oil paints, what I had. And I brought it all in, and I was like, here you go, man. You can go ahead and do your demo then. And he did the demo, and it was super cool. He did this this like Lich King kind of thing, and called Tor was the name of the Lich. And then when he was done with it, he came over with the board, and he goes, "It's still wet, so if you want to just take it home and just wash this off, you could do that, and then you could reuse the board." And I said, and I'm just spitballing here. I could keep it. All right. And then when my children want to go to college, I could sell it and send them to college. And he's like, yeah, whatever you want to do with it, man. It's fine. It's yours. And I was like, okay. So I have this original Jeff Easley because,
Wow.
we're all the same, like
yeah.
Jeff goes through those moments where he doesn't think that he's got value,
You just wash it off.
Yeah. He's just whatever. It's just an oil painting, whatever that I did, Yeah, I'm the guy that did all the covers for Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition, but I'm nobody.
You just wash it off and reuse the board, just because.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. I refer to Larry as my illegitimate grandfather, because I love that man. He and I have I've known him for years. Actually, you know what? He told me he and I were in a panel together. And he said once a thing that has stayed with me my entire career, and that
talking about Larry Elmore, by the way.
Yeah, Larry Elmore. If you've ever seen like Dragonlance Chronicles, he did all.
He's going to be on the show. I just haven't had him on yet. Yeah. So.
Oh yeah. No. And Larry's awesome.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, you all right, Mo? Yeah, Mo's got that.
So go ahead.
Move this around this way. So yeah, Larry said in a panel that we were on, he said that art is not a choice, it's a compulsion.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot agree more. Like we are compelled to do art every day. I mean, and if we could stop, we should. Like if you can stop being an artist, stop being an artist. Okay,
Yeah,
but
good luck with that.
the fact of the matter is that like if you can't find a way to make money at it, because you'll be a mediocre whatever else that you would be, or you could be what you're supposed to be and be an artist. That's the way I always looked at it. I would have been a mediocre geneticist. Maybe I would have done great things, but like the chances of me having the impact that I had in art through genetics was far less.
And I would have been a mediocre surgeon. Considering how often I lose my keys, yeah, probably a mediocre surgeon.
Probably mediocre. Yeah.
Probably a mediocre.
No, you would have had a new place to lose your keys. In spot. Like, oh, where did I throw those up into that guy?
Yeah, probably not such a great surgeon. No, probably not. I'm kind of a messy painter. I probably would have been a messy surgeon. Kind of a messy baker too. There would have been body parts on the ceiling. Probably would not have been a great.
It's not the same.
Probably would have been better as better choices than artists. So,
yeah.
Anyway, speaking of opening up cans of worms or body cavities and stuff like that, so do you want to open up that can of worms we were talking about before?
Oh yeah, AI.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were talking about it before, deciding whether or not we wanted to talk about it, but in a constructive manner. So.
Yeah, everybody's worried about it. Everybody's, and rightfully so. I mean, right now the way that it works, the like artificial intelligence is it's a great tool. You know what I mean? It's going to do wonderful things for society. I think that it's going to be fantastic. But like we were saying earlier, I think that right now we're in kind of the Napster phase of like AI when it comes to art. And if anybody isn't as old as I am, Napster was a music torrenting site. So you could just go on Napster and download whatever music you wanted, okay, for free. But you were literally just pirating it, okay? And like we all did it. We all stood around just basically, stealing these artists' work every day. I had giant banks of music that I was listening to and stuff like that. Things I didn't even want, but I would just download them because I could. And
I don't even know if most people remember Napster.
Yeah, so. Napster. But Napster, the answer to Napster is things like Spotify and Pandora and stuff like that. Basically, Spotify and Pandora pay all of those artists a little bit of money. Not a lot, but a little bit. Okay. And it destroyed things like Napster. And rightfully so. Napster was not a nice thing, Napster but Napster was necessary for us to make that jump. I think that AI is probably the AI art sort of sphere is the same sort of thing,
People were upset at first because they were all like, "Hey, I got all my music for free. How come I got to pay for it now? I don't want to pay for it now."
Everybody's gonna be super upset about it, and they're gonna be mad at us, because we're the ones that made the change, and that's fine. I'm willing to put that on my shoulders. You can be mad at me. But the fact of the matter is that like we need to be paid, like we created, we've spent, and I get like this loops back to the fact I spend all of my time doing artwork, 80 hours a week, on some weeks, just doing artwork, some of which never sees the light of day, but it still gets uploaded. You know what I mean? It gets uploaded onto Facebook, or it gets uploaded onto this or that or the other thing. You can train an AI to do artwork that looks just like mine or yours or or anybody's. But I think the new ruling that says that it's not allowed to be copywritten is brilliant, You know, it's an elegant solution to the problem. You know, like if you can't copyright the artwork that you create from these prompts, then it no longer has a financial benefit, you know?
Yeah, it's painful to artists because, like, for instance, I have a Kickstarter that I'm running right now for a book, and I've spent 4 years illustrating this book. And I started this Kickstarter. I mean, I started working on it before this whole AI thing. So it's, I've been working on it since the beginning, and it's taken me a long time, plus my whole career, to do this. And it's Art Nouveau, and it's very complicated. And I get posts on it, people asking, "Oh, is this AI?" And it's just gut wrenching because people since then, before I launched this Kickstarter, have put out entire books of like Art Nouveau pieces and stuff that they've done in AI that they make a bunch of money on, that they can make money on, that took them like no time, and I've put so much just work, and that people don't see, and the consumer doesn't know the difference. They don't see the difference. They don't see how much work goes into it. They don't know the difference. They literally don't know the difference. We're talking just thousands of hours of just grueling, like, labor. I mean, it's a labor of love, don't get me wrong, but it's just, but they can't see it. And they go, "Oh, is this AI? Did AI make this?" And to say that, it just guts you. And it's just like, and it's just awful.
But think about it like this. We also had the same problem when digital was such a thing. Like I remember at the beginning, like I would have to, like I actually needed to make sure that there was a traditional element to every piece of digital artwork that I did, so that I could say that it was a combination of digital and traditional.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, when digital first came out.
Yeah, because if I didn't, then the opinion of the artwork dropped significantly because it was digital. Not realizing that Photoshop is just another brush. It's a wildly complicated paintbrush. All right, that like you have to spend years mastering in order to like figure out how to utilize it correctly without it making things look. Because I mean, anybody can do stuff with Photoshop, but doing good stuff with Photoshop is complex and difficult. The rule I always use is that if you can use a filter, don't.
Yes, no, don't. When it first came out, when people started first doing digital artwork, people just were the impression that there was this just big make art button, and then if you were a digital painter, you were just pushing a button, and it was just, you were running a filter over something, and boom, it was just made. Because there were these bad filters you could just run over art, and it was just making the art, and it was just, or using Poser. You were talking about Poser.
Yeah, Poser was another one. And again, Poser can be really great as like as a lattice work, for a thing, because you're posing, the thing. But you'd have to do something on the outside of it in order to change it from the base model looks, and stuff like that. Like you have to actually do the artwork on top of the wireframe, essentially, which is what you're, you can think of Poser as kind of like a sculpting program, which I guess technically it was kind of a sculpting.
It's like a figure model that you could pose in a certain pose, but you have to paint on top of it. You can't just pose the little figure and call it done. It just looks like you just posed a figure, and it doesn't look very good.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Yeah,
but in the beginning, the sci-fi fantasy art area was just littered with people that thought that they could just pose these models and then call it a day. Do all of the and that was going to be enough. And again, we're kind of in the same place. I mean, it's not like you can't tell AI, like as a trained eye and whatnot. You know what I mean? And luckily, people are beginning, like the powers that be, especially within the art show sort of area, are kind of coming together, and they're pushing against it. Like San Diego Comic-Con, for instance, has a no artificial intelligence policy whenever it comes to the art valley.
The difference is, though, that Poser doesn't steal from other artists, and AI scrapes your work, my work, and it actually takes it and then reassembles it and steals from other artists.
And you can specifically target an artist as well. You can say, I want this done in the style of Nigel Sade, or I want this done in the style of, Echo Chernik,
Yeah.
And so, and you can train these models on all of that kind of stuff. And that's, it's again, this is why I use the Napster concept, as a descriptor for it, because now we have to give up our comfort a little bit in order to do the right thing. And I feel like we're going to. We're on the path, When it all started off, I honestly thought that NFTs were going to be the thing that were going to save art, which is ironic because I disliked NFTs a lot as a concept because of their connection to like cryptocurrency and that sort of thing. But I thought the blockchain was going to allow us to have, and it might still, who knows, if the blockchain is there, and in order to do a certain thing, you have to have a blockchain in place. You could then include there that, like, if you want this to use this for AI, then it costs this much, as a note. It's kind of pulling the negative away from the thing itself that is generally possible. Honestly, you can think of NFTs and AI in the same sort of lens. They're both really good ideas that have some really terrible people attached to it. It's like that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And as a result, they both, and an NFT kind of provides you and me with something that we've never had, which is the legal security of we did the artwork, because now I can say that I did your artwork and you have to prove that I didn't, and but with an NFT, you'll be able to go, no, see, here's the blockchain. It goes back to me. I'm the artist, and then Bob's your uncle. We're done, we don't have to have any more of that conversation. But because of all of the cryptocurrency things that went along with it and the sort of predatory nature of that environment, it has a really nasty name that's associated with it. AI is kind of the same way. AI, like tomorrow, if I can sit down and have an artificial intelligence that is helping me to schedule my day out, to do things like that, that would be worth its weight. Amazing, you know what I mean? But it's not, but now right now we're in that phase of it doing the terrible things.
Yeah. Like, what artists do you think will be affected the most by?
I think that, well, honestly, I hope that nobody's going to end up being affected with this new copyright issue that they put forward. But I think that for the most part, it will be the illustration community, people that are just illustrating a thing. Like you're gonna see things like portraits and like still lifes, or like baseline like comic art, and stuff like that. You're gonna see people that do like Bill Sienkiewicz, for instance, okay, who is a phenomenal artist. That guy is going to be fine because he puts so much emotion into every piece that he does that we can replicate the style easily, but we can't replicate the emotion. I feel like that's where we stand out in this environment. We're not just drawing a thing to grab a paycheck. We're drawing a thing because we have a voice that we need to share with the world, and there are some of us that really drive down that avenue, like we're like we have to be emotional, within our artwork and whatnot. You're right. A lot of the people aren't going to see the difference, but I feel like now it's necessary for us to, as artists, sort of remind people of that emotion that we put into our own work. Start bringing the people along with us. Like our fans end up becoming the first line of defense in this battle against, artificial intelligence versus regular versus art, fine artists as it is, and that's the inflammatory term, fine artists versus illustration and stuff like that. But like, I honestly do feel like the difference is about it. It's about emotion. Like if you're attempting to illustrate an emotion, and it's a scale. It's like autism or ADHD or anything like that. Everybody's on a spectrum of, or sexuality or gender or any of those kinds of things. Like we have a spectrum that we're on, and at this extreme end over here, we have fine art, which is just purely the emotion, where is all you're doing. Okay, and on the other side, you've got a thing, and you still lifes. You know what I mean? A still life is on this side. Whereas an abstract impressionism that is really driving home, the emotional content is on this side. And like we all exist in this spectrum in the middle. Some of us lean further towards illustration, others of us lean further towards the emotion. And I feel like the people that veer towards the emotional side of things are going to be the ones that are going to have the easiest time of it. But I think that people will gravitate towards that. You know what I mean? Like as artists, we will start to realize that what we have to offer over a computer is our soul, our emotion, and it's this terrifying, thing that we have to share with the world. I somebody explained it to me is like an artist sees the world as it is and is compelled to tell everybody about it. Like, so that emotion that we're feeling is necessary to us, and us telling you what this emotion is that I felt, is part of being an artist. It's the idea that like an artist feels and thinks for those who can't or won't, and an artist feels an emotion 1,000 times more than the average person does. And to see art in a certain way is to stop it, buddy. He's chewing on his toenail. For us to see art, or I got distracted by you. So we feel and think for those who can't. Okay, we do these things, and we say, I'm gonna feel this in this extreme way because I have to, and if I can draw a picture and that shows you a little window into that insane, crazy, screwed up brain that has that emotion in such an extreme way, then you get to see it, you get to feel it through me, and that's what it means to be an artist, in my opinion. Like I feel the pain or the joy or the whatever, and then I put it on paper, and you get to experience that pain or joy that I've felt. And maybe it's something that you've never experienced before, and it moves you, and it takes you to another place, and it helps you through your life. It allows you to be enlightened. It allows you to be moved, to be moved in a way that we all need to be moved,
And the computer will never be able to do that. So
it can't. It can emulate it, but it's not doing it.
Not going to ever understand that. So
no. And so I think that's where we're safe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that once the Napster phase is done, we're all going to
It'll sort out. That's encouraging. So
Yeah, we're all going to be part of the Spotify of art, and you need a piece of artwork really quick for your role-playing game that's going on today. All right, so you can type into your prompts, I need a guy that has long black hair and looks evil, or whatever, and like the AI can then spit out this image that like you use to show your players. You know what I mean?
Don't give them permission.
Yeah, but like, and I would do that. You know what I mean? Like, I would definitely give permission for my artwork to be able to be utilized to create imagery for,
as long as you get paid for it.
Yeah, a group of people. Exactly. If you're trying to do anything marketing wise, I want to be, I want to be included, in that,
All right, so we're about out of time. So,
are we? Okay.
What shows do you have upcoming that people can see you at?
I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con in a couple weeks.
Yep.
And then I have Gen Con the weekend after. Yes.
I'll see you there.
Yeah, so Gen Con, and then
Dragon Con.
Dragon Con. I'll also be at Rose City Comic Con, stuff like that. But and New York Comic Con as well.
And New York Comic Con.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Oh, I'll also be in Gamescom in Cologne, Germany.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'll get there eventually. So, all right, and you're online, and your person is going to post up all your information online.
Absolutely.
So, well, thank you for listening to The Professional Artist. And again, I'm Echo Chernik, and we're broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM on New Orleans, simulcast on YouTube and Facebook. And follow, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. And we will see you next week. And thank you, Nigel, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye.